Do looks matter to women as much as they do to men? The answer is yes. This may come as a shock to some of you because most men underestimate the importance of beauty in mate selection from a woman's perspective, because they have been brainwashed in the West to believe that women don't care about this. Women care about your money, or women care about your personality. When really nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, your character and your values do matter, but a woman is not going to care about that in the first place if she doesn't find you attractive to begin with. Those things matter once she desires you. And this is what I'm here to break down in this video from a scientific perspective, which is why on screen I'm going to share with you a 1 minute 30-second video from Mack and Murphy, who deals with interpersonal relationships, and he's done many studies on sociology, how men and women interact with each other, and he's gathered data on this topic, why women place a lot of value on looks. Let's give it a watch. I'm going to break it down and share my thoughts with you, and then you guys can give me your thoughts as well down in the comments. So let's watch.
Who is hot is going to be perceived as funnier. He's going to be perceived as having a better personality, as more intelligent, even if he isn't, more likable, even if he isn't. They've done some really silly studies here. I mean, it's terrible, but they've put photos and biographies, kind of like a dating app, and mixed and matched them to try and determine the effect of looks versus personality. And there was a study on women where they did this. There were moderately hot guys, there were hot guys, and not so hot guys. And the personality changed whether the hot guy or the moderately hot guy was preferred, but no matter what, the not hot guy was not preferred. Personality mattered if a guy was hot enough. So the guys who were very unattractive.
This is something I say to my clients often. If you are new to my channel, you haven't heard me say this, but my long-term followers on YouTube know I've been harping on this now for about nearly 4 years. If you meet a woman and you do not find her attractive, it is never going to matter how feminine and sweet and loving she is. Even if your values completely align, you want the exact same things in life, you're completely compatible. If you think she's a 2 out of 10, you just don't think she's beautiful, she's not your type, it does not matter. You are not going to care about her inequalities because there's no physical attraction tying you to be interested in her. And this is the same thing for women. If you're not hot enough, if you don't fit into her criteria of what she finds desirable in a man, she's not going to care about your virtues. She's not going to care how loyal you are. She's not going to care how funny you are. She's not going to care how much money you make or your job or your achievements or how masculine and alpha you are. Those things matter only if she finds you attractive. And it's the example I often give to my clients, which is if you have girl number 1, she's a 10 out of 10, and she's very feminine, she's exactly your dream girl, and she's a wonderful woman. And girl number 2 is an ugly duckling. She's not attractive at all, but she's just as amazing and feminine and kind and wonderful as girl number 1. Which girl are you picking? Girl number 1 or girl number 2? Now, if every man is being honest with themselves, they would pick girl number 1. Why? Because they find her attractive and she has good values. She's a good woman. So they're getting the best of everything. They have real desire, so they actually care to get to know her, they're curious about her, and if their values align, they can have a real bond. Well, newsflash, that's what women care about as well. And this is why we see so many wealthy guys like Jeff Bezos, all these multimillionaires and billionaires, where they marry these gold diggers, these women that don't find them attractive, and it's purely transactional, and then they get dumped, or they get divorced, or they get betrayed, and they can't figure out why. Physical attraction plays a massive role in mate selection. Okay? If you have any self-respect, you would choose girl number 1 in the example I gave. And it's really the same thing for women. You can put a line of men and they're all fantastic. They're all sweet guys, husband material. But they're going to choose, if they have self-esteem, they will choose the man that they find attractive. After all, that's how God made men and women for each other. I mean, when you see a woman that's beautiful and you're a single guy, you're drawn to her. Right? Same thing for women. When they see a handsome guy, they're drawn to him. That is the bottom line. And look, I've made a lot of videos on this channel about physical attraction. I'll link them down below. They'll pop up they'll in the description down on the video, and I'll have some pop up at the end here on the screen so you can look at them as well. Highly recommend you give them a shot. But this is something I've seen play out time and time again with men and women. If there's not real genuine desire on both ends, it's just not going to work out. But it's not the be all end all. You do need to have compatibility. Your belief system, your values, your lifestyle must align. But to even have a deeper conversation, to care, to see if those factors are even there, what matters first is, do I think she's beautiful? Does she think I am handsome? If that isn't there, you can't go deeper into the next phase. Okay, so let's scroll back a bit and let's continue watching the video.
Not hot guy was not preferred. Personality mattered if a guy was hot enough. So the guys who were very unattractive, they were rated as having worse personalities than they would have if they were hot, and they were rated as less dateable overall than the hot guys. It is just one study, but there's other studies that converge on this idea that if you're past a certain level of hotness, then personality makes a difference. But if you're not attractive enough for a person's standards, then personality, it might matter, but it doesn't quite make a difference. Because it's so funny, I'll share the second part of this study. They had the women's mothers come in and were like, choose someone for your daughter today. And you'd think it's like, gosh, I mean, the mothers are surely going to pick based on personality because they don't have to be with the guy physically, one would hope. And yet they went through the same selective pattern as their daughters. Now, from a social perspective, this is pretty hard to get your head around because it's like, well, they don't have to sleep with their daughter's boyfriend, so why do they care what he looks like? Right. But from a basic sexual selection perspective, right, from a biological perspective, it's like, well, that's their grandchild that they're talking about. And so they have to care about the same things. For the same reason that one might want a good-looking husband to have children with, you'd also want a good-looking man to help produce your grandchildren.
Interesting.
Guy
so that is the video. And for men who have been raised to think that women don't care about looks, I hope this gives you some more insight. So my thoughts on this will go as follows. In our culture, and in most cultures across the world, women are taught and women are very aware of this from a young age. Men like a beautiful woman. So women are naturally taught, and everything they do, they beautify themselves. They care about their appearance, they put on a good image, and they want to be presentable to a man they like. But on the other hand, men are not really taught or told that women want a good-looking man. What they hear is women want financial stability, women want a guy who has money and who's going to take care of her, women want a guy who's confident. Yeah. But you miss the part where women also want a man that they find handsome. So what happens is a lot of men have this idea in their head, well, by that logic, the more money I make, or the more confident, the more stable, the more achievements I have, the more attractive I am to women. And then they apply that to the dating world. They go out there, and when you lead with your wallet, what do? You get gold diggers. You get women that don't desire you, but the trade-off is it's a one-sided attraction. You're the one that's attracted to them, but they're just using you for financial gain while they go off and find someone they do find attractive, which is sad and immoral on their part. But this is why you as a man need to have your lust in check and fill in your knowledge gap with this stuff that I'm mentioning in this video. Because to make any relationship work, there's just two components, chemistry and compatibility. Chemistry is when physical attraction is present between a man and a woman. Okay? Chemistry is the emotional connection between a man and a woman that are physically attracted to each other. The key part is to each other. There are so many situations where I see men, they go for women that don't find them attractive. They're not getting texts back, they're not getting calls back. She disrespects him, and there's like other guys in the picture, or she cheats on him. And it's like, yeah, you're dating a woman that doesn't desire you, which is why these things are happening. Obviously, if that woman doesn't desire you, but she's doing bad things to you, I'm sure she's also immoral. She has some dysfunction. There's something that's not right with her, because there are good women who, if they recognize they're not attracted to you and they chose the wrong guy, they'll just leave you and they won't cheat on you. They won't do anything dysfunctional like that. That is something to mention too. But the bottom line is physical attraction must be mutual. And as Mackin said in the video here,
personality mattered if a guy was hot enough. So the guys who were...
So personality mattered if the guy was hot enough. That's what matters here. See, a woman, she wants to be approached by you, or she's going to match with you on a dating app if she thinks you're handsome enough. The next step is to get to know your personality. Because do not get me wrong, there are plenty of stories of men who will go on dates, or they'll get on a phone call, they'll get a girl's number, and these guys are so effeminate, they're so weak, they're so cowardly, or they're completely dysfunctional, you're a walking red flag. And you say things that turn the woman off. You say or do things that scare her away, right? And on paper, she looked at you and thought, oh, he's handsome, I want to get to know him. But the second you open your mouth, she's like, oh, well, he looks good, but his values don't align. Or there's something wrong with him, or he's weird, or he's weak. So she gets turned off or scared, naturally so, and that woman thinks, what a shame, he was handsome. But she walks away if she has self-respect. That's what happens. So even if you're a very attractive guy, and I've seen good-looking guys do this, because they don't know how to treat a woman, how to communicate, or they, these guys have problems with lust, they're addicted to pornography, or they have other problems, they behave in such a weak, needy way that scares women off, that turns them off and scares them away, that they push women away, even though they look good. So yes, your looks do get you in the door, and the woman is going to want to care to know about your personality. But if she figures out that there's something wrong with you, she's out the door. Okay? On the flip side, if you're a really good guy and your values are solid, but you're not attractive at all, she might try and date you because she thinks, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then it's like, what happens? I don't feel anything for the guy. And I've seen this play out. You see it a lot it's very sad, but in a lot of religious communities, Christian communities, even in Muslim communities, you see a lot of women are told, just marry the guy. I know you don't find him attractive, but just marry him, he'll grow on you. Because it's for the family. And then they marry this guy and they don't desire him. And then guys are like, oh, my wife doesn't want to be intimate with me. It's like, yeah, dude, she didn't find you attractive. But because guys have this initial knowledge gap from culture that I mentioned, the average guy doesn't even care to think or even look, does this woman find me attractive? Does she compliment me? Does she tell me I'm handsome? Do I see it in her actions? Do I see it in her words? Or did she just date me or marry me because it was in her best interest financially or for stability? You have to be aware of this stuff because it does happen. There's a lot of women out there with low self-esteem and they'll date you just because. Be careful. So what Mackin says stands. A lot of men underestimate the importance of beauty in mate selection. And the other factor is self-esteem. A woman, obviously, she has to respect herself enough to care about this. But on average, it seems true. If she's a pretty woman and she has standards for herself, why wouldn't she want a handsome guy who's also good? Come on, it's common sense. You guys wouldn't touch a woman that's overweight or obese, even if she was kind and feminine, because you're unattracted. So you don't want to know her personality. Okay? In the same way, even if you, on the flip side, you got with a girl who's really beautiful, but she turned out to be a monster, cheating on you, lying to you, being abusive, disrespecting you, all of a sudden she doesn't look physically attractive anymore to you, right? Emotionally speaking. Physically, yes, she might be attractive, but emotionally, you're like, wow, she makes me feel terrible. I can't trust her. She doesn't respect me. She obviously doesn't love me. She treats me like I'm dirt. I don't want to be near her. I'm going to dodge a bullet and you'll leave. Right? That is what happens in those situations. So please understand, yes, looks matter. But for the looks to matter and have substance, it needs to be paired together with someone who truly is compatible and has good values and that there are no red flags. That is the bottom line. Okay? But you can't mediate you can't mediate compatibility or money if she doesn't think you're handsome. Okay? You can, flip side, you get a very feminine girl and she treats you like a king. And you may really like that treatment. But if you do not find her beautiful, all that's going to happen in the long run is you are going to feel guilty because you're not going to want to be intimate with her. You're not going to desire to be close to her. You're going to feel disconnected from her. And you're always going to have one eye out the door. Or if you're a loyal guy, that guilt is going to be too much and you're just going to break up with her because you know it's not fair to be with her. And that's what happens in these cases to men and women alike. So men, please do not be dumb or underestimate. Looks do matter. There's a lot you can do to improve and maintain your attractiveness that you can work on. But to say that looks don't matter is ridiculous. Women do care about looks. I'm going to play the video one more time from the end and we'll leave it at that.
Unattractive, they were rated as having worse personalities than they would have if they were hot, and they were rated as less dateable overall than the hot guys. It is just one study, but there's other studies that converge on this idea that if you're past a certain level of hotness, then personality makes a difference. But if you're not attractive enough for a person's standards, then personality, it might matter, but it doesn't quite make a difference. Because it's so funny, I'll show you the second part of this study. They had the women's mothers come in and were like, choose someone for your daughter to date. And you'd think it's like, gosh, I mean, the mothers are surely going to pick based on personality, because they don't have to be with the guy physically, one would hope. And yet they went through the same selective pattern as their daughters. Now, from a social perspective, this is pretty hard to get your head around, because it's like, well, they don't have to sleep with their daughter's boyfriend, so why do they care what he looks like? Right. But from a basic sexual selection perspective, right, from a biological perspective, it's like, well, that's their grandchild that they're talking about. And so they have to care about the same things. For the same reason that one might want a good-looking husband to have children with, you'd also want a good-looking man to help produce your grandchildren.
And that is the bottom line. Intelligent women who are invested in their family, they want attractive grandchildren to further the bloodline. Even as men, even as a man, I can say that myself. I'm not a father yet. But it's like, when I'm a father, I want my sons and daughters to marry someone attractive. I want my grandchildren to be attractive. I want to pass down the bloodline. I want them to have the best chance they can. So yes, looks do matter. It does, and that is the bottom line. If you don't think that's real, that's up to you. You can keep suffering in your dating life. But trying to date women that don't find you attractive by using your money or your wealth, it doesn't matter how confident or masculine you are. Those things aren't going to matter to her if you don't think you're attractive. Intelligent women want to be with a husband, want to marry a man they think is drop dead handsome, their dream man. Intelligent men want to marry a woman that is beautiful. And the smartest people make sure that their partner feels the same way about them, so that that intimacy, that passion can deepen and grow. Do not underestimate how important looks and attraction is in relationship, in marriage, in dating. If you'd like to learn more about this, I actually do mention a lot of this stuff inside of my relationship community. I'll link it down below. I have different courses in my relationship community, and of course we have monthly group calls. I would hope to see some of you on. And yeah, the link will be down below. You can join, only $11, with a 7-day free trial included. And with everything else, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'll have different videos about attraction popping up on the screen, which will tie into this topic that you can take a look at. And with that said, hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the next one.